Morning, everyone. Welcome back to Municipal Services and Properties Committee. Right now, we're going to get started with the rest of our meeting and our hearings today. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Misha, Star,
Present.
Fairstone, Jones, Casey, Kelly, Moore. Here. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. And also, I definitely want to make a note that Councilman Joe Jones is off today, as well as Chairman Kevin Bishop. They both are out sick. We know there's some bug going around. I knew I was out the last 2 weeks as well. Just our thoughts and prayers with our colleagues to make sure they get back healthier than ever so they can continue to do the wonderful work that they do. We do have a couple different pieces, ordinances that we definitely would like to go through, starting with ordinance number 1154-2023. Authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to enter into a maintenance, inspection, and repair agreement with and to issue a permit to the Cleveland Clinic Foundation to encroach onto, over, and within the public right-of-way of East 100th Street by constructing, installing, using, and maintaining an overhead pedestrian bridge. Director, this is through the MOCAP, Capital Projects Department. Can you speak more about Ordinance 1154?
Mr. Chairman, so I'm going to have Rick Stratowski speak to these two ordinances. I've spoken a lot here today, so we're going to let him handle these two.
And look, you know our council members, we say director, tell us.
Yes, exactly.
To the chair, the Cleveland Clinic Foundation Innovation District project includes 2 new laboratory buildings on Cedar Avenue, linked by a fully enclosed and conditioned pedestrian bridge crossing East 100th Street between Cedar and Carnegie. This bridge is like 60 feet long, 12 feet wide. It sits about 37 feet above the roadway. It will only be for the employees of this laboratory. So they are requesting an encroachment permit from the city, which also then imparts the maintenance of that pedestrian bridge upon them.
Okay. And this is taking place in Council President Griffin's ward.
Yes, sir.
All right, and I know this is going to be heard in DPS with Council Member Chairman Anthony Hairston as well. As far as the support, has Council President lend your support? Have you met with him as well as the constituents to talk about this initiative?
We called him last week, had to leave a voicemail. We did send him a 3-page slide deck on the project. He's familiar with it.
So he is familiar with it. Does he support it?
Yes.
And through the chairman and the councilman, this project with the Cleveland Clinic has been in the works for quite some time. It's under construction now. So we're just coming to council with this bridge encroachment permit because they're now ready for that step. But overall, the project has has full support of the council person, including the bridge.
Okay.
I spoke anyways, yeah. Can't help it.
All right, do we have any questions from members of the council? All right, well, there's no further questions from members of the council. Ordinance 1154, 2023 has passed. Next, we have ordinance 1157, 2023, by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, authorizing the Director of Capital Projects to employ one or more consultants to provide professional service necessary to rehabilitate the Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard Bridge, to apply for and accept any gifts or grants for the purpose from any public or private entity, and authorizing the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to acquire, accept, and record the right-of-way purposes, any real property, and its easement necessary to make the improvements. I think I know exactly what director is thinking of. We're going to have Rick talk more about ordinance 1157. Can you speak more, or director, tell us more about this ordinance?
Councilman, you got it right. I'll hand it over to Rick.
To the chair, the project involves rehabilitating The existing concrete arch bridge over Dome Brook, built in 1900, located just north of Parkgate Avenue, MLK intersection. We applied for and received the ODOT Municipal Bridge Grant for this project, received $2 million. Total cost, including design, construction administration, we paid at about $3.3 million. Unfortunately, the schedule somehow got foobarred a little bit there. It actually will go in design about first quarter of '24 and finish up September 2025. The bid and award period will be September to April 25, and then we'll get going with construction in 2026, as these are fiscal year 26 funds. The current condition of the bridge is, the deck is poor, and so is the superstructure. It's a beautiful bridge, and we look forward to bringing it back to its pristine nature.
All right, thank you. Before we pass it open to any council members on the committee, I know this is in Ward 9, correct?
Yes, sir. We contacted Councilmember Conwell, spoke with him, and he's in support.
He's in support of it. Yeah, Conwell always in support of getting that money. You know how Conwell do. And I see that you have spoke to him within this design and the bid. Are you planning to have with Council Conwell to be able to have some type of community engagement as well as a meeting to talk about this project? Because I know it's not going to start construction until 2027. Are you lining up opportunities for residents to understand as well as additional stakeholders to know what's going on?
To the council, to the chair, yes, we will work with the councilman for what type of public engagement he wants to see.
Okay. All right. I have no other question. I definitely will open it up to Councilman Brian Casey. He has some questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the manager, I'm going to direct this question specifically to this piece of legislation, but it's more of an in general question. This bridge has been here since 1900, right? So it's going out for design. You said
It'll be out for design early next year.
early next year, and it's not supposed to be done with design until the end of September, I think you said?
To the chair, to the councilman, the design that we have here, the amount of time, that includes the putting out an RFP, the formalizing a contract, and getting the design done. As the money is for fiscal year 26, we don't get it till July 2025. So
All right.
we'll have the design completed such that the best time to bid a job is typically at the end of a year, toward the end of a year, and then you start at the beginning of the next year.
All right, then, Mr. Chairman, to the manager, that makes more sense if we're not getting the money until 2025, because the question was going to be, this bridge has been there since 1900, right? What would take so long to design what we're going to do with the bridge? It's been there for more than 100, by this time, 125 years. We don't have to redesign it. I'm assuming that we're just kind of rebuilding it or just fixing the structure so it can be used better or what have you. And that shouldn't take, almost a year to do.
To the chair of the council member, it's the whole process. The RFP takes a couple, 3 months. Formalizing a contract itself takes a couple, 3 or 4 months. Then the design period. And
So when you say design, you don't just mean we're designing it. You're saying that
It's
this is the whole
Yes, sir.
the whole process, and then we don't get the money until the 25.
Yeah, we'll be
All
ready
right,
for
then that
everyone to
makes
spend the
more
money when we
sense
get it.
because when we hear these things, we're passing legislation now, and then we don't see a finished project for 2.5, 3 years. That just seems like a lengthy period of time, considering it's an emergency ordinance anyways, right? And I understand emergency ordinances, but our general public hears an emergency ordinance and then doesn't see a finished product for 3 years. That kind of looks like somebody's dragging their feet, even though now we've learned that we're not getting the money for a year and a half and everything. So I just wanted to bring that up for length of time for designs and all that other stuff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Casey, for those great questions and understanding it. And thank you to Director as well as Manager for giving us a thorough explanation. Any other members? Seeing therefore there are no other questions from the members of the committee, ordinance number 1157-2023 passes. I know next for the part of our committee, we do have Division of Motor Vehicle Maintenance Department and Public Works coming up. So we're going to let them come to the table. Thank you, MoCap, for all the work that you do. I know you got a lot of changes coming around. So any support you need from council, let us know. Thank you. Thanks for the great job, Director.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good morning, Director. How you doing?
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for all the work that you do and your team. Can you first start off introducing your team that's here today, so we can get into the Division of Motor Vehicle Maintenance? I know you got Commissioner Brown here, just so we can know who all at the table, so we can be able to go through the presentation first, and then we'll go through the actual budgets, and then ask questions through the committee as well, so we can get all the things that we need done.
Absolutely. Through the chair to the council body, I do have to my left, your right, Assistant Director John Laird. Again, myself, Frank Williams, Director of Public Works. To my right is Commissioner Jeff Brown, overseeing motor vehicle maintenance, and further down is Commissioner Nagel, who oversees property management. Before we get into our presentation for motor vehicle maintenance, I just want to make mention of the fact that from the director's chair, we are working on a lot of different endeavors within the Division of Motor Vehicles Maintenance, but one of the things I would be remiss if I didn't mention is the prowess of our commissioner. Our commissioner is known across the country as it relates to areas of motor vehicle maintenance, and also where we're going in the future as it relates to new processes and improvements that we are looking to make over the next several years. While I was in the city of Columbus, we ran into each other quite a bit as it relates to things on the lines of electric vehicles, smart communications, and things of that sort regarding motor vehicle maintenance. So I'm very appreciative of his work and his dedication to not only keeping us moving now, but thinking about where we're going to be in the future. Commissioner Brown has had to deal with a lot of challenges, whether it be supply chain issues, things that are impacting the industry itself, and also just the vacancies that everyone is experiencing as it relates to heavy equipment mechanics and body people as well. So all those things, Commissioner Brown has been very diligent in trying to figure out the best ways forward to help us maintain things now, but also get us into the future. So I wanted just to make mention of those things, whether it be leasing equipment, whether it be purchasing, whether it be really honing in on capital planning and really seeing where we're going to be in the next few years, assessing our current fleet. All those things have been being done behind the scenes at a very high level, and I just wanted to make sure to shout that out so that the residents and also the body of council would know what's going on behind the scenes across the city as it relates to motor vehicles and the maintenance, because they're not seen on the front line, but they actually keep everything going.
Thank you.
So I'd yield to Commissioner Brown for his presentation.
Thank you, Director. How you doing, Commissioner?
I'm well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is just some output metrics on what we do. General repairs, preventive maintenance, body shop repairs, training hours, in-house tows, and vehicles purchased and prep. The Division of Motor Vehicle Maintenance is responsible for over 4,500 pieces of equipment that's owned by the city. We service the backup generators throughout the city, and we are also oversee and run the city's fuel system. Once again, That's just a kind of a snapshot of emergency repairs and towing, fueling, auto body work, and new vehicle preparation. We are also responsible for preparing the capital budget for new vehicles. We bring those units in, prep them, and deploy them. Over the last several years, we've been looking into alternative fuel and electric vehicles. We have been moving forward slowly with our electric vehicle purchases. One reason is we're still learning where and how to utilize them within our fleet. When it comes to electric vehicles, you have to make sure that you buy the right vehicle for the right operation. It doesn't benefit us or the city to purchase a vehicle that doesn't fit into that operation, and we have to alter the operation to make that vehicle work. So right now there are a total of 9 electric vehicles in the city's fleet. They are all cars, and we have one parking enforcement vehicle that's all electric. I will say that the Division of Parking has been like the poster child for trying out electric vehicles. Commissioner Johnson over there has really been taking the lead with anything and everything that she can do to put electric vehicles out in the streets for us. We have 4 charging stations, 2 here at Willard Park, 1 at Cleveland Hopkins, and the latest one was just installed over at Frederick Douglass Recreation Center. So the challenge with electric vehicles for us is matching the infrastructure with the purchase of vehicles. So we have to get the charging systems installed in order to be able to deploy the vehicles out into the streets. So we are working on that. We're working with the Office of Sustainability and looking at where are the best locations for charging systems, and then we'll actually bring those vehicles into the fleet. There's a ton of new vehicles coming out in 2025 and 2026, different models and makes by all the manufacturers that will open us up to a larger number of vehicles that we can try for different applications. So a little bit about our fleet management system. We use a system called Faster, and what that does for us is that will track in all the vehicle maintenance, vehicle acquisition, the life cycle cost of the vehicle from the time we purchase it to the time we dispose of it. It tracks our maintenance scheduling. It has a preventive maintenance component in it. It's a parts management system. And so everything that's done to a vehicle over the life of that vehicle will be documented in this system. We can look at the cost. We can see if there's any trends on certain type of vehicles costing us more to maintain. And so that's kind of like our lifeblood of how we track everything in the city. And then there's just some information on capital funds spent every year. In our 2023 general fund budget, it was just over $18 million worth of equipment that was purchased for the city, different divisions. And in 2022, we spent almost $12 million. And those are just some pictures of different pieces of equipment. I did want to speak a little bit on the technician apprentice program. We've been working on that for a little bit over a year, and we're trying to develop a program where we take individuals directly out of high school and put them into a structured apprenticeship program and for a pathway for them to become certified technicians by the end of it. That whole program is still in development. We're very close to finalizing it. Once it's finalized, it'll go to Columbus to get state board approval, and we'd like to roll it out. We've been working specifically with the Cleveland Municipal School District on this, but we would have plans to like branch that out, spread that out all over Northeast Ohio. And that is the end of that presentation.
Through the chair to the board, I would like to, I'm going to put Commissioner Brown on the spot to, one of the things that I think is important to really look at is the operation and how he supports the operations that the residents or that you all may see. This year was a milestone. I pressed the motor vehicle maintenance group to have snow equipment ready early this year so that we could also fit into that mantra of getting the training started earlier. So the equipment has to be ready earlier, which means his operation has to change because he's getting equipment ready for the LEAF program, snow and ice control. The equipment from the vacant cutting is starting to come in to get ready for the next season. So all those things have to move together. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of explain how that happens from his shop, because he didn't get any more staffing, he didn't get any more people, but he had to change his operation to support our operation that's happening in the field. So I kind of want to give him the opportunity to kind of explain that operation and what he did internally.
So one of the things that I did is I have to give a lot of credit to my team. I have some excellent people working for me. So I tasked our unit leaders in all of those shops to just really come up with creative ways to get the work done sooner. We utilized some overtime, we utilized some outside vendors, and just really just got to a point where just made ourselves just a little bit more efficient. The timing was everything there. So I am happy to say that the snow fleet is prepared and ready to hit the streets. The prep has been done on them. We are, all of our leaf machines are prepared and ready to hit the streets. And we're wrapping up, the equipment on the vacant lot part of things that's coming in, and we'll start servicing that over the winter. But really all that credit goes to, my unit leaders and my technicians. They have done an excellent job of rising to the challenge.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Director, for giving that overview. A couple of questions that I do have before I open it up to the committee. Obviously, when you bring up vehicle technician apprenticeship program, and you start talking about you wake me up. Everyone knows that I'm big on that, and definitely to Commissioner as well as Director. I am very interested in how do we create apprenticeship program throughout Public Works. There's some great career opportunities. Some of my colleagues, one of my colleagues, the Dean of Council, me and him speak offline, and when I talked to him, he talked about how he was working in the city in his early 20s. Now you look up and say he's been doing public service work for almost 50-something years, straight out of high school. So how do we, across Public Works, we always talk about the funding that we do have, the funding that we don't have, and we need more. How do we start having that pipeline of apprenticeship programs, not just with the vehicle technician program, but through everything? How do we really start engaging young folks as early as in high school? Because one of the things I always think of is the summer programming. There's a lot of kids during the summer, they apply to work jobs, but then they're not able to get those jobs through the county, through the YOU, because they don't have enough funding. But then you look around in the city, we have a lot of vacant positions open through Public Works, through other departments, but just seeing, how can we really start filling those gaps into these positions? Because if you're 16 years old and you could tweet and you could post on social media and you could talk a lot, let's get you some work so you can make some money, so you can see what the world is. And I think that's used to be something that was big back in the day, and that's where I think we lost some different career opportunities. So how do we create an apprenticeship program like the Public Works one throughout all of Cleveland, so we can be able to introduce these young folks to that program? But then also, once as the assistant director speaks, possibly get more understanding of the vehicle technician apprentice program, so therefore I can get more. Thank you.
So I don't know if you want to touch the vehicle program first?
Yep, let's do the
Commissioner, if you
vehicle
want
first,
that,
and then we can, yep.
So we have patterned our program after the program that is already in process in Cleveland Public Power for linemen. So we looked at that program as a base, and we worked with some trainers at Tri-C, and we've developed a program that is specifically for auto repair technicians and heavy-duty truck technicians. We would capture these youth directly as they graduate out of high school, and we would put them into an apprentice program that would range anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 hours. And it is a complete training program. It's classroom time. It's on the floor time. They would basically come on as an employee of the city of Cleveland, but they would be part of this apprentice program. And they would be trained by journeyman mechanics. It's a very structured program. That's why it needs certification by the state, because there's several benchmarks that you have to meet over so many hours in testing. But it's a thorough program, and it's a thorough pathway to becoming a professional technician. I'm real proud of what we've done up to this point. We just need to put the finishing touches on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, and to the chair, just so the department has done, I would say, a lot of ad hoc kind of apprenticeships, and you probably know about recreation. We use that youth development worker, and that's, if you will, an ad hoc kind of. It's not as formal as what you see in CPP, or what you also are seeing what we're going to do with MVM. But we have been using youth development workers and part-time rec instructors, and that kind of becomes this pathway. But to that point, the director is really one of the things that we'll see when we talk about administration, some of the things that we're beginning to do now is streamline that. So there is a lot of union cooperation we have to have for some of these positions. So it's difficult to bring, Local 1 is a very cooperative group. When we approached them about this, they were open arms with that. We have to still have to massage. I won't say massage. We have to work with our unions to be able to get some of these other. We have our MSLs and our some of these positions that are you're going to have to go through the union. We're going to have to work with them to be able to get those formalized. But there are some things that we've also been doing with civil service to get some positions that are more not as some of our positions are difficult to get into. And so we've been working with civil service, and civil service has come up with some titles that help us get more ground level folks in. And so in our department, we've done more of a grassroots type of apprenticeship, but that's something that the director and I are trying to find out a way to formalize that, working with, for instance, one of the areas we looked at is the arborist, is that we want to try to find a way that we can reach out to young people and get them excited about this type of work, as you know. Back in the day, people come in and say, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a fireman. But nobody says, I want to be an arborist. So one of our goals is to be able to get into the schools and the rec centers and the places where we know the kids are and make this attractive to them. But we know it's going to take a little time. But at the same time, we'll have to work with the unions to be able to say, hey, this is a door we want to open. Can you work with us and partner with us to help us get there?
Through the chair, I would agree with both of my colleagues. One of the things that I am looking at is scaling what's working across the department wherever able. And like the assistant director mentioned, there are some challenges with unions, but also a challenge making sure that our young people know these other jobs exist. For example, in snow and ice control, people don't realize when you see 50 trucks, there's another 20 people working behind the scenes as radio operators or as management in other areas, as labor, changing plow blades and things of that sort. So making sure that these jobs or these positions are known about is very important, but also creating a culture that when we bring young folk in, that they want to stay. To me, it's more advantageous to the city when we talk about bringing folk in, is not only just bringing them in, but creating an environment that they would want to stay, especially when we're talking about putting the time and training into them. We don't want them to leave. We want them to actually want to feel the pride of being a public servant and things of that sort. So while we're working on the technicalities of creating these programs, we're also working internally to create a good culture for people, so when they come in, they're actually mentored and actually brought up similar to the way we were when we came into public service. And that's an area that's very concerning to me, is bringing back that quality of pride of being a public servant when we do engage some of these young people. So again, onboarding them is one portion, getting them into a program, but also creating a culture that they will want to stay and be a part of serving the residents of the city of Cleveland long term.
That is perfect. I know Councilman Danny Kelly had a point he wanted to bring up.
Through the chair to the team. Thank you. You brought up a lot of the things that I was going to ask about collaboration with the union and Brother Brown, as far as like the age 18 and maybe starting them a little before that. I know the unions, to get them to understand the culture and want to do it. I know probably they aren't able to drive machinery, be in this program until they graduate or 18. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes. 18 is kind of that point where we can, kind of let them do a lot of things, because if they're as minors, we would have to get parental involvement and that type of stuff like that. So what we have focused on is we are engaging those students early on. 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. We are at these the career expos at all the schools, and we're getting that interest out there. So we're putting that seed out there early so that they know that this is an option for them, when they turn 18. And then when they turn 18, when they come into that apprenticeship program, when we get this in place, we'll be able to bring them along. But that is the key, though. You have to introduce this information to them early. You have to get them excited about it early. And I'm real happy. We've got two Max A students that are working for us now. We hired them first week after they graduated. We had been talking to them, and the week after they graduated, they came to work for us. We brought their parents down to our shop facility, walked them around, showed them what they would be doing, where they would be working at, the people they would be working with, and both of these young men have turned out to be fantastic.
Well, thank you for that. That's important. I appreciate it. Do they have to have graduated? I'm just curious. Do you have a stipulation that they have to have graduated?
To the chair, to the councilman, yes, they have to be a high school graduate.
Well, thank you for everything. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and to that point, I think something that is very, very important, like working with the county. I think we can do something really great. I'm not going to put you on the spot, director, but I'm going to ask assistant director possibly an estimate of how many openings do we have in public works. And then when we look at those openings, think about the type of jobs they have, and see how a teenager can possibly get that exposure. Because if I learn, one of the programs I was able to help get off the ground was this program with Wild Youth called Building Great Futures, teaching kids about construction, teaching them how to repair a house, how to put it together, the HVACs, the plumbing, all of those different things I didn't even know. So I was getting my OSHA certification with the kids at the same time, and I was just managing them, making sure that they did everything, working with their parents to get them to go through the Wild Youth process, to be certified, to be able to accept employment, and then they would start doing the construction. You'll be amazed how, the stereotypes that they say don't exist when we start talking about money. Had kids from East Technical High School, and then we had kids from John Adams. One thing they were trying to say, one house is John Adams' house, one house is East Tech house. Me and the other manager, Brandon Delk, we talked, and I said, let's mix it up. Mix it up. I said, which one of your kids that's going to need the extra loving that you not going to want to give to them all day, every day? Let's swap each other's one like that and mix it up. Come to find out, no problems, no discrepancies, no issues. They put together 2 houses that year. After that, 3 years later, they were able to do more houses now in Council President Blaine Griffin's ward. They were able to put some more houses together. But they started with that program in the summer, and then they look forward to the last 2 summers, their junior year, their senior year, to do it. So then you look for like, hey, I'm 18 now. I can get that other certification. Now I done learn from someone who's been in construction for a while, and now they got me into a career opportunity. And just from them starting off doing 39 hours or 35 hours a week during the summer, making about $12 to $15 a week. You think about that, they were making some solid money for those 10 weeks, so they got an interest. Now they starting to say, hey, when I get out of school, I want to get into this trade, because a lot of our kids do not want to necessarily just become multiple degrees. They don't want to do that. It's like sometimes they say, hey, man, I graduated, I want to get to work. And there's other careers that you can do that does not need for a college degree. And we got to make sure we take care of those individuals so they can be able to have a great life as well, and do those different things. So getting that involved in public works, and whatever collaboration I can do and assist, I think it would be great. But I know YOU has money. But then they also have a lot of students, young folks that apply for jobs, and they're not able to get in there because they don't have enough funding. So finding that pipeline would be definitely really good. Just a couple more questions I definitely want to do for motor vehicle maintenance. I know that you got like general fleet assessments and that fleet management software program that you spoke on. Can you speak on it a little bit more to give us a more in-depth understanding of how does it work, what does it do, and then does it extend the life of our vehicles so we can get an understanding from that?
So, to the chair, so our fleet management program, it is a tracking system. Okay, so everything that gets done to that vehicle is tracked. The technician work hours, the parts that are associated with it, and so it gives us a life cycle cost. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it would extend the life of the fleet, but it allows us to track the history of it and maybe determine if they're, number one, if this is a vehicle that is costing more than other vehicles. And maybe as we move forward in the future, we may not want to purchase that particular vehicle. But it does give us it does give us a snapshot of where we're at in the life of that vehicle. It does rate the vehicle over time on a point system. So based on the amount of dollars going into it, the frequency of repairs, it will give it a point value. And that point value then is when I run a report, I'm able to say, okay, we've got so many vehicles with so many points. These are the next vehicles that need to be replaced. So it does provide us with a snapshot of a replacement cycle for vehicles as well. It is a computer-based system. It's all of our technicians are on it. Everything is tracked. I'm also able to integrate the fuel cost associated with that vehicle into this. That's a different system, but I'm able to pull that data over so I can look at everything associated with that vehicle throughout the entire life.
Okay, that's pretty good. Just a few more questions. When we purchase this, our different trailers, do we purchase them just for that certain field that they're going to operate? Prime example, when we purchase tractors, are they're with enclosed cabs, or do you have an opportunity to purchase some ones that we can be able to use throughout the year? How are we selecting that? The trailers that we are purchasing through the software, or what is the process for us to purchase these vehicles?
To the chair. So typically what I do is I personally look at the application, and when we purchase vehicles or equipment, whatever it is, I try to purchase it with a universal outlook so that we may purchase let's say a tractor. We may purchase a tractor that is going to be used in vacant lots, but throughout the life of that, I look at the opportunity that maybe at some time it might get transferred over to cemeteries or some other applications. So we try to buy vehicles and equipment so it's as universal as possible, but we have to buy them to make sure that they can do the job that we need them to do for the original application. Trailers, tractors, whatever it is, normally what I do is I sit down with the commissioner of that particular division. We talk about what their needs are, and then I investigate and test and evaluate different pieces of equipment, make sure that's the right application for the right process, and then that's basically how the purchasing decision is made.
Through the chair, just to expound on that, one of the processes as well through that that happens all year long is Commissioner Brown is tasked to bring in vendors to do testing and show us the different pieces of equipment that may be coming online that may be possible to use in the future. So there's a process that, regardless of the actual purchase that may actually happen for that one item that gets purchased, we may have seen 10 to 15 vendors to make sure that we actually purchase what is useful for our group. The other part of that is similar to what Councilman Polenzek had been talking about as far as plows on garbage trucks. That's also a function that we test and try out and things of that sort to make sure that when we purchase a piece of equipment that it can possibly be used in a multiplicity of ways to make sure that we get as much value out of that piece of equipment as we can.
I did want to add, Chair, that there was an example of, I think it was this year, Commissioner Brown's group went out and found some electric sweepers. We were thinking about, let's try to go EV with sweepers. So we brought the group in, we did a series of demos, and unfortunately, this is one of those scenarios where we found out that this piece of equipment wouldn't work. So there's a thorough vetting that happens, and the commissioner is very hands-on with that process of vetting through what does work, what could work, and again, it boiled down to things like this just wasn't the right piece, and the charging infrastructure wasn't ready. Those kind of things were thought out. So just wanted to make sure that you.
Thank you. Those are great. A couple other things I would just ask is, has using that walk behind Edgar been tested for vacant lot maintenance to sidewalk? If not, have you anything set up?
Through the chair to the council, yes, we are looking at that, and also walk behind blowers is one of the other things that we're looking at. Commissioner Brown is working with the park maintenance group. He can expound a little more.
To the chair, we are testing a couple of different machines. We have not purchased anything yet. We did buy a unit. I'm trying to remember the name of it that we put out at the West Side Market. It is actually it's a Steiner, I want to say, but it is a sweeper. It has a snowblower attachment on it. And actually, it has a plow blade attachment as well. So we're trying several different things. It's just before we make a mass purchase, I want to make sure that it's actually right for us.
Okay. And then, thank you. But then also, from that standpoint, how often does motor vehicle maintenance schedule manufacturers training for city-owned equipment? How often are these trainings being taking place? Throughout the year, time frame, and how to be able to make sure all staff are able to get that training for that type of equipment. How often?
To the chair, that is ongoing. We actually have a in-house trainer that works for motor vehicle maintenance, and typically what I do, because of the size of our division, I have a lot of technicians trying to send technicians to the manufacturer training. What we do is I have the manufacturer come to us, and he trains my trainer, and then we put a program together, and then my in-house trainer, we have a classroom down at East 49th Street. My in-house trainer trains our technicians. There are some times where the manufacturer will come in. We have Ford Motor and General Motors comes in and actually puts on training classes for our technicians when we have new vehicles, new police cars, new technology. But all that stuff is done, that is ongoing throughout the year. We probably do, I want to say, upwards of 60 to 70 training classes per year. That's for all of the technicians. We just had the manufacturer in, did some training with my auto body repairmen on the new frame rack that we have. So that never stops. And I'm real big on training because I can't have high expectations of my technicians if I don't give them the tools they need, and the tools they need is a proper training. And so that's something I've always been big on.
Thank you. And I believe that's only questions I have. I do want to open it up to members of the committee for any further questions. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director or commissioner, you may not have this answer today, but if you could get it for us in the future, what's the average length of stay that a vehicle stays with motor vehicle before it's repaired?
To the chair, to the council, are you talking about new vehicles?
Well, I would hope a new vehicle wouldn't need to come in for repair, but I'm saying when a vehicle comes in for repair, right, how long does it take to get those repairs done?
To the chair, to the councilman, it would obviously depend on the specific repair type. Normally and if we're talking about light duty or heavy duty vehicles, if they're just coming in for preventive maintenance, those are normally turned around in a day or two, depending if any additional repairs are required. With heavy trucks and waste collection vehicles, those obviously take a little bit longer. I don't know if I could give you an average, but it could range anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, depending on the particular job.
All right, can we get that information then, Director? The number of vehicles that went through motor vehicle maintenance last year, and how long they were there, and what the repairs were for?
Through the chair, to the councilman, one thing to note, and I'll make sure to have that spelled out. One of the things that throws this type of data off is what the person writes a piece of equipment up for and takes it to Commissioner Brown can be one thing, but what is actually wrong with it
Can be
something totally different, which takes that timing and throws and skews that number. So just be aware of that when we do give that information
Right,
back.
no.
It happens a lot, especially in the streets division.
Okay, yeah, if you could just get us that information so that we can see how long, trucks are needing to sit there for repair. And then the second thing, Mr. Chairman, to Commissioner Brown, did I hear you say that all the snow fleets, all the trucks are up, ready to go when the snow hits? Because that's going to be a big thing, right? Yeah. And we know that at some point we're going to get hit. So I thought I heard you say earlier that all of our trucks are repaired, ready to go, and if we had a snowstorm tonight, would be hitting the streets.
Through the chair to the councilman, that is correct. What we do is we call it a winter prep. So each truck that is designed for snow removal, we bring it in, we service it, we go through all the systems on it, and then we return it to the division. We have completed the winter prep and follow-up repairs on the entire fleet. And that's not just, now those, you have to understand that those vehicles are being used in other capacities now. So the dump trucks are out there on the street. That's not to say that one of them doesn't have a cracked mirror on it, comes into the shop today, but the winter prep and follow-up repairs have been performed the entire fleet. And if it snowed today, we would be ready we're ready.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the Commissioner, how big is that fleet?
72, I want to say. We do have some new vehicles coming in.
Hold on, 72 snowplows?
Yes, I believe it's 72. I will confirm that number for you though. That's just heavy trucks. That's the large. That's not pickup trucks or any of the medium duty.
Those are the big ones, the big ones with that you put the salt in the back, and those are the
I
big
believe our
ones that
fleet
come
is
out.
72, and we have 3 new trucks that are going to be deployed before the end of November.
3 heavy-duty trucks?
Yes, 3.
So it'll take it up to 75.
75, I believe. And I will confirm that number for you.
And then how many of the graders do we have that are be prepped and ready to go? If we have a big storm and we're ready to go.
I think we only have 2, maybe 3 graders.
Okay.
I'll have to confirm that too.
All right.
Normally our target is November 1st to have everything ready for the winter.
Okay. All right. And then one last question. I think this falls under you. I don't think it falls under Director Nagel, but it does falls under you. Leaf pickup? Does that fall under you?
Yep. Streets division. Yep.
Right. When is that going to start?
Starts. We're starting next week. We were looking at starting this week. I was going to mention it in the streets operational portion, but
All right, well,
the
you can wait
leaves
till
aren't
streets
quite
then.
down yet, so we're going to start next week.
All right.
And there's a communication coming out today for that.
All right. You can cover that in streets then. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Casey. One point that you just brought up that made me think, with the amount of trucks that we do have up and ready, do we have like a number of employees that's ready to work starting I think Commissioner mentioned November 1st is when we try to be prepared for obviously the snow. So November 1st is on Wednesday. I believe Wednesday. So if we did have a snow storm, are we able to get all 72 trucks out, or how many staff do we have currently, or vacancy, or employed to be able to go out and do the work now?
Through the chair to the councilman, as much as we've been readying the fleet, we've also been readying staffing and personnel. And you may have seen over in the Muni lot, we've been training our full-time staffing, working, getting ready for that. Last week, we did give the order for half of the fleet to be ready with salt and plows on trucks with the temperatures dropping this week. So we do have staffing, and our full-time staffing is ready to go for that. We're onboarding now our seasonal staffing to get those folk on. I do believe they should be on, I think, at the end of the month. Next week. Our goal is next week, but they trickle in just due to the process and also background checks and things of that sort. So they're coming in now. I signed off on quite a few Friday. I don't have the exact numbers, but we are in good shape this year, much better than we were last year.
Yep, and to your point, I know last year we didn't get the snow, and I know we added the tracker or GPS for us to be able to see what roads may have been hit on live time. I know it went through some kinks when you first get something up and running. Right. You're gonna get all type of problems before you get to the solutions. So I know you're gonna roll that out. But what's important that I learned from just observation and learning from some of the staff going to one of our different stations was learning that, we have a lot of trucks, but certain ships we don't have full everyone working. You may have one station may have all 3 strips and have all their trucks out. Then you may have one station, they may not get everybody out till the second shift, and then not the first shift or the third shift. So that's something that was before you, Director. That's what I learned about. So I'm just trying to say, can we speak on how we're staffing and scheduling that? Because if you got 3 shifts at one station and you only could get all the trucks out that second shift, and people are not coming in on that third shift or that early morning shift, how do we, stagger staff, or how do we schedule it to a point that we have adequate amount of staff out there on all the trucks? Because the more trucks we have out there, the more we can get these 10,000 plus streets snow plow, and the less issues that we may have. We can't control Mother Nature,
right?
But one thing we can do is try to get our vehicles out there as much as we can. Can you speak on that?
Sure. So with that, is we always talk about that people process and the service that we provide. So it first starts with the people and empowering the people to make decisions, and now also look at the information that we have. So we always have a forecast or what the weather is actually doing. We have the equipment availability, and of course your staffing that you have to work with, and keeping all those things, juggling them. But the one thing that a lot of times isn't taken into account is we are a larger city. It can be snowing a lot in Ward 1 and nothing in another ward. So making sure that we empower staff to be able to move equipment, make decisions to actually serve the residents. For example, every snow event, all 10,000 streets don't need plowed. So why drive around in circles, and then I got residents calling me saying, why does this truck keep going down the street and there's no snow? Yep. So we're trying to get better at all of those facets. And so part of that has been to make sure that we have staffing across all 3 shifts. So we did work to having staffing. It does go down a little bit during the second shift, but that also gives MVM time to get things up, because one of the other parts of this dynamic is you look up and you have a lot of staffing, but you'll have all your equipment sitting at the shop getting repaired, so you just don't want to have folk just sitting not doing anything. So that dynamic is one that's always fluid, but you have to empower the staff to be able to make the right decisions based on what's in front of them. Because what a district unit leader is looking at Seville could be totally different at Ridge Road. Okay, so all those things, to your point, are all things being looked at and looked at a little differently going forward. And we're taking in information. For example, we're looking at the possibility of testing out cameras that would be on the traffic signals to be able to give the district unit leaders the ability to see the roadways and staff accordingly. So all those things are things that are influencing our staffing decisions, and we'll continue to get better at that going forward.
Yeah, that is great. I thank you, and I'm hoping we don't have just the staple paper routes.
Oh, no.
I'm not against paper now. I like to save some trees and different things like that, but I do print out things too as well. But you know, sometimes you get a paper route and you're like, yo, this person just keep getting the same route. And to your point, director, like, hey, you snow plow on the street and you driving down the street that don't need snow plow, but that route says that person has to do that. So that staff person is doing what they're instructed to.
Right.
So that is very good. And then also the importance of having those leaders get out there to see as well, because that eyeball, seeing things is different. You know, I was reading this book by Mayor Carl Stokes, and one of the things he mentioned about the time, obviously, when he was elected, you know, we deal with a lot of different racism, prejudice things going on. And one thing that he mentioned in his book was the important role of having a strong director of public works. And what he mentioned was the go-to person always was that assistant director too, because he at times had a director that wasn't that competent. And he noticed right when he got elected in office, he called the director and said, how's the roads, how everything, in the wee hours of the night around 2 in the morning. And the director said everything good. And the mayor like, well, how do you know? He said, I would have had some missed calls if I didn't know. I would have got a call. But then when he called the assistant director was getting out the car and driving around and noticed that all the streets on the east side was repaved and none of the streets on the west side. And after you dealing with a lot, for him to become the first African-American mayor to get elected, that's the worst thing. You want to get that call. Absolutely. If people coming from the west to go east to go to work and can't get out of their driveways and can't get out to their jobs, that is a terrible look for that mayor, for Carl Stokes at that time. So reading that and learning from that book, I learned like, hey, that eyeball, making sure all hands on deck, making sure those leaders and those shifts who's in charge of these people that's not going out there. They can't just be at the station. They got to be able to go, you know, all hands on deck to get things good, and that's very important. But I'll pass it over to Councilman Casey. He had another point, and then we go from there.
Well, it's nice to see that nothing has changed with the east side getting plowed before the west side since the 60s. No, Mr. Chairman, to the director.
I can't win it. There's no winning.
You just opened yourself up to that one. Are you guys using the snowplow tracker again this year? Okay, because that was an absolute positive disaster last year. All right.
Before last.
Yeah, we ain't
It was the
getting
year before last, and
Come on.
No. That's why when that was first rolled out, it was not good, right? Because it just wasn't updating when the plows were coming by or it said plows were there or whatever. So, are you confident that? Because that thing scares the bejeebies out of me, because it sets people into a panic when they think their street was supposed to be plowed according to the data and it really wasn't plowed, right? And I think that that's what made that snowstorm 2 years ago even worse, was because it's good to give information, but like I said back then, giving misinformation is worse than not giving information at all. Right. So are you confident that when we do get that snowstorm this year, and I think we're going to get a good one, that tracker is going to be updated in real life time with when those plows are moving through the streets?
Through the chairman to the councilman, there's a few things I would need to unpack. The first thing is to manage the expectation. For example, you used the term real time. There is no real time. There's a time delay is when those things will actually show. So one of the things with that, I am very confident in what we have going forward this year, but if man makes it, it's going to break. So, the idea is for me as the director to make sure I'm in the front to educate the residents as we go through events and not be defensive about it, but actually talk about the things while it's happening. So it's going to be my goal to make myself available, whether to be media or to you all as council persons, and also with our communication staff to walk through these events to say this is what's happening, this is what you should expect. And also, most of you residents know that I work the events as well, so I'm actually verifying some of those things that we're seeing and asking those same questions as well to make sure that I can point to the plan and explain any discrepancies that we may have. The idea is always going to be we're coming, but we want to make sure to be as transparent with our operations as possible, and if we mess up, we're going to fix it. But I'll be there to take whatever criticisms or celebrations that we can have throughout that process, because I do believe that we're getting better at service delivery, but we have to get better at communicating what we're doing as a department.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, to the director, and I appreciate that. Let's hope, right, that there's no criticisms when it comes to that app or whatever it is, and what's really getting done on the streets.
One more thing on that, though. I do want to make mention of the fact that in this year's rollout with the whole route optimization piece, we are working on, and we'll talk a little more about it when we get to streets, but the turn-by-turn portion is one of the things that will be added into the items for our staffing. And we're working on now looking at the business processes, because incorporating route optimization, one thing you never want to do is take away the expertise of the staff that's been doing it for a lot of years and say, now you got to do it this way. So you have to figure out that business process for the new staff that don't know the city and haven't been doing it. They need the turn by turn. But some of our senior staff that have been doing it for years, I don't want to take their expertise out of their hands. So we have to develop the right business process for the tool and the implementation. So that's another thing that I wanted to make sure that the staff actually gets to hear, that the tools are meant to help, not meant to be a gotcha.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to add through the chair to the councilman that first iteration of software, that tracker, that there was really little to no ownership by the Division of Streets. So whatever was happening wasn't so much a function of what we were doing. It was just kind of happening. But the real stuff that was actually, the actual work that was happening, there wasn't a whole lot of communication with that.
And that, Mr. Chairman, to our directors and assistant director, that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? Because there's a lot of people in the city that don't use the technology, but there's a lot of people that do use the technology. And what happened was the technology wasn't coinciding with work being done or not being done, and that led to, 1,000 more phone calls into every council person's office, and and our heads are spinning, your heads are spinning. They don't know what's going on. They think that, so I just hoping that technology, whoever's running it, I don't know if it comes from your department or somewhere else, that the work actually being done is going to coincide with whatever the information is that we're putting out. That's and I don't think that that's too much for us as a council or the residents of the city of Cleveland to ask. If you're going to be putting that out there, the information we should be putting out should be accurate and correct.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And if I could just speak to
Go ahead.
this man right here, nobody sleeps during snow. So we're out there. I can tell you numerous times we're actually talking while we're out there. But to be able to really inform, again, I do want to iterate that this software is not real time. So it really is going to be dependent on, listening to the director's lead on what's really happening with that. There's sometimes you look at that software, it'll talk about a pass. So you look at the software and you'll see green, they'll say it's a pass. But there may be other things happening. You may not put a plow down, but you have pass. And these are the kind of things that the director's going to make sure that everybody understands. We're getting used to this software till we can use it as a tool, not so much as a guide. And I think that is important to understand.
Absolutely.
Yep, and I think that is a great point, Assistant Director, because residents, like Councilman Casey said, we do got those who are very tech savvy, and then we have those who are, old school and traditional on getting things done. So that real time and the generation that we're living in is as fast as you can, as fast as you can. How can we get the messaging out, the communication? How quickly can we be? But I always believe in the quality over quantity, and that is some things that we got to continue to work on and just work together. So I appreciate the work that you all are doing, and we're going to continue to work together.
I appreciate it.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, and 10 for there are no more questions from motor vehicle maintenance. Appreciate you, Commissioner Brown. I think we have one more presentation for the day, but thank you, Commissioner Brown, for the work you're doing with these vehicles. Now, we need to make sure the residents know that our vehicle's working. Appreciate that. Right? When you get everything on the west side, they just be in your ear. But next we do have Division of Property Management to come up and talk about different things. See, where you stay at? See.
That's because our streets are paved. We don't want those big trucks on
So I know we do have a presentation. Staff is getting our presentation up, and we can go from there.
We just got a handout.
Handout, okay. Well, we do got property management up. We just do got Public Works Director and Assistant Director here. We'll let you start off introducing who we have for property management.
All righty. All right. Thank you. Through the chair to the body, I again have Assistant Director Laird, and also flanked to my right is Commissioner Nagel, a long time lifer here with the city of Cleveland, who knows where everything is. I had to fix that one. But one of the things that from the director's level we've been working on is really taking a look at some of the processes and also some of the staffing levels, and understanding that Commissioner Nagel's group, when you talk about property management, is dovetailed into almost every initiative or endeavor that will be happening throughout the city. So no matter if we're talking about modernizing City Hall, well, of course, property management is going to be involved in that. If we're talking about, increasing or helping with security in rec centers, well, property management is involved in that. So they're involved in a lot of things, and they're stretched in a lot of different directions. So we're looking at really taking a look at what the group does, what they're responsible for, because I am not big on having the accountability conversation without making sure that the staffing has the tools that they need to actually get the task done. So there's a lot that goes underneath property management. So one of the things that I've been doing is really taking a look at what the expectations are, and are they reasonable? Do they make sense across the industry? So for example, are we using the same industry standards for cleaning restrooms in our rec centers that you would find at the mall or at your restaurants and things of that sort, that we're mirroring best management practices? So that's one of the things I've tasked Commissioner Nagel to really look at, and we've been working through that. Chief T1 had started some initiatives within the group before I got here, and Commissioner Nagel can speak to those, but I do know that we've been working on, when I got here, the rec center refresh, and going through a lot of all the rec centers and going through them and looking at the things that could be done. I did dovetail that with a lot of the other areas. So while they were working on the inside as far as property management, we had streets doing the parking lots and traffic engineering, restriping, and things like that. So the refreshes were overall and holistic. Right now, I know he's working on the fire stations, and I'm hoping he gets back to my actual units, because my folk are coming in for winter time, so we're winter prepping at the same time, kind of similar to what I mentioned with MVM, where while we're closing up the pools for the summer, we're getting ready to open up things for the winter. So all those things are happening in a fluid manner that takes a lot of management. So I'll yield and let Commissioner Nagel take you through his handout, but the group is really taking some of those changes and taking a lot of those areas that I'm looking to not as a place of criticism, but a place of us getting better as a unit and better service our customers.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tom Nagel, Commissioner of Property Management. Been commissioner for 23 years now. Thank you, Director. So I put together this quick handout here to kind of show you where the focus of our division is going this year. You know, as you can imagine, in the past, the size of my division isn't one of the larger ones, but we do have a great responsibility with over 200 facilities building-wise, and then we also assist with the 240 parks and playgrounds where they have infrastructure that lends itself to utilizing our trades at. So when Chief Tuin came on board, she directed property management to be more focused in our efforts. In the past, we tried to please everybody at one time, so you can imagine how quickly that would go off the rails with limited staff. So what we did was we broke the city up into 4 pieces. We took recreation, which has a large number of buildings, the fire department, which has the second largest number of buildings for a single entity, and then we take the police and the balance of the safety buildings as our third group, and then finally the director's buildings, which are actually quite numerous. It takes quite a few buildings to run streets and waste collection and parks maintenance and the cemeteries and all of those facilities into our fourth group, last being not necessarily the least.
And I'm not sure how Public Works ended up being last in this equation. That may change over time.
Well, I can actually speak to that for you, Director. Mr. Chairman, what we did was we analyzed the buildings as to what their mission actually was within the city. So we have 3 groups. We have the group where a citizen actually visits the facility, where they have contact with the city of Cleveland. That's kind of our first priority where we do our refreshes at. The second priority is where that operation has direct contact with the citizens. For instance, the fire department, not many people go to a fire station, but they certainly expect them at their front door when they make that call. So our refresh allows that facility to operate to the extent possible to keep their folks mission ready for their critical operations. And then the fourth level is, unfortunately, back in the director's realm, where you see their folks do stuff for the city, an absolute needed effort, but nobody ever goes to a street station and nobody ever stops a snowplow to have a conversation. So they're kind of the third tier of city employees providing service. So we model our refresh group for that, where we start with the public contact points. The next level we go to, again, is the mission out of that facility has direct contact with citizens. And then the final level is where those employees make a difference every day wherever they go. So with that being said, we started it this year with the recreation being the first one. It was a 4-month heavy maintenance cycle. So one of the things we presented at budget last year was an 80-20 model. We were going to attempt to go to 80% planned maintenance and 20% emergency maintenance. And quite frankly, the numbers have lined up, especially with this refresh now, because we're no longer getting distracted from people saying how important their job is. We're actually classifying it as a priority 1, a priority 2, a priority 3, or a priority 4. So priority 1s and 2s are life safety emergencies, or where the building is in danger of being damaged, or where the people in that facility are not able to carry out their mission because of whatever's going on the maintenance side or operational side of that facility. So as you go over this now, it puts a little bit of context into what these numbers mean here that I've given on the handout. And on our priorities 1s and 2s, they ended up being about 22% of our workload to date, which is lines pretty close to what we had talked about on the 80-20 maintenance model during budget. While we're doing the deferred maintenance, the backlog, quite often, a lot of those work orders would languish in our system for years because nobody was going to go take care of a cracked window pane or a chipped wall somewhere just for on the merits of that repair request itself. But when we go into a facility now, as part of the refresh cycle, all of those smaller items are captured up during our time that we're putting into that building. Now, I won't pretend that when we go into a building, we're going to take care of everything in that building, and we're going to take care of every building every year. We just don't have those resources. But it is an opportunity that when we go to a rec center or currently a fire station right now, when we're in that particular building, we're going to do as much as we can within that time frame, everything 1 and 2, almost everything 3, and as much 4 as we can while we're there before we have to move on to the next building or the next refresh cycle. And I put some numbers in there, but again, when you talk about in context, 200 buildings and 24 employees taking care of those 200 buildings, it's quite a bit of work that they are performing every day.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Director. That last number that you mentioned, 200 buildings and 24 employees. So to me, do it seem like we need more? Because one of the things I learned from maintenance and just general maintenance, take for instance a vehicle. We may say, okay, the car is not cranking on. If the truck ain't starting, everyone in the community or in the streets say it's the battery. Us, we say it's the alternator. Depending on what's going on. If you get the lights going on, the battery is there. But the alternator is the thing key to make the vehicle run. So you may have quite a bit of other things going on, but if we don't get that alternator fixed, that cracked side window does no justice or things like that. So when I think about 200 buildings, then I think about 24 people on staff. If they all going to 7, 8 different buildings and they seeing all these different repairs, how can they be efficient on getting these things done? Because things happen in our buildings, repairs is always needed. How can 24 be able to really help take care of the maintenance? Because there may be some things going on in this rec center that may need to be repaired, or it may be some other different things that need to be repaired in another building. But how do we determine how it get done if it's only 24 people? Like, what would that be, that process?
So, through the chair, thank you for that question. One of the things that I is, at least my philosophy, is first looking at the processes, like what actually is supposed to happen to really gauge the backlog, really gauge the brevity of work. Before I come to you all and suggest the onboarding of a 30-year commitment to staffing, I think we have to step back and really assess what we have in front of us and really take a look at what those expectations are, and then approach it from, looking at the vacancies and filling the staffing coffer. So that's the process that Commissioner Nagel has mentioned to you today, is the culmination of that data, the culmination of that information. And so now coming up, you'll see in the next budget request staffing that relates to this information. Typically in the industry, you're looking at so many employees per the square footage is kind of the easy metric to look at it. But when you actually take in the actual condition of these buildings, that can inform us even more. Before we came to you as a body to request X amount of staffing, we wanted to make sure that number would be informed by all of the data that we could get in, so that we can make good decisions staffing-wise going forward. But again, to your point, from a 1,000-foot view, it's pretty obvious we're going to need some more people.
Okay, because those important.
Yeah.
Those repairs in those properties and buildings is something that residents, voice always to us as council members, and just making sure we got that proper assessment of our buildings is very good. Can you, Commissioner, can you speak to, or Director, can you speak to how does City Works work? How do we use that? How do we be creative, be more proactive and preventive on maintenance through City Works? Can you elaborate on that, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, So City Works, prior to the Bibb administration coming on board, was more of a billing system for us where we just captured our activities and provided an in-house bill to access some capital funds. Currently, we actually use it as our planning tool now. If every request that comes into the division is captured in a service request, those service requests are then analyzed, prioritized, and then issued a work order. So what work order is generally a document to our employee to say, go do this. Whereas a service request is an acknowledgement that we understand and have received your request. So ultimately, not all service requests turn into work orders or can be resolved with just answering the service request. But where there's true work or repairs needed, that's when it's created, a work order is created at the time that you're going to dispatch the employee. What we don't want to do is create an automatic work order and then just get into that trap of creating more work than you could ever handle. So a work order is a more realistic assignment of work that the employee will handle, fill out his paperwork, close the work order, and then we use that data going forward as to how many completed, how much time we're putting into a building that we share with MOCAP, who was here earlier as part of facilities assessment and capital planning. So, I don't believe they got too deeply into it, but it's starting to work out well where we can now put buildings where we're starting to do extra maintenance or an abnormal amount of maintenance and repairs on MOCAP's radar so that they can get it into their capital plan quicker than they normally did.
Thank you. Okay. Other than that, I would just ask, is there some specific equipment needs that you need from property management that you have, since you did some different assessments that we as council may need to be aware of? Because as we get prepared for the budgeting, we should be able to see some things that you may have on your radar that's deep down as far as equipment needs.
Mr. Chairman, as you can imagine, the types of employees that we utilize all use tools of their trade, and I'm a firm proponent of giving somebody the proper tools to get the best outcome of that job. Almost any competent mechanic or cleaner in my operation will make do with what you give them, but it's up to us to break that and give them the best that they could have to make them as most productive as possible. If you give somebody a beat-up mop and it's going to take them 3 times as long to clean the floor versus buy them a fairly expensive machine, but the machine will do a better job on the floor in 1/3 of the time, I buy them that machine.
Yeah. Thank you. I have no further question. I open up the committee. Councilman Danny Kelly.
I'm a 45-year member of Local 310. I put 30 in to get out, and believe me, 50% of the job is having the tools you need, so I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman and Councilman, absolutely. 1/3 of my operation is tradesmen, so they understand the value of a good tool.
Any other council committee members?
I'm going to go real quick.
Councilwoman Rebecca Moore.
I got to ask, the Stella Walsh pool heater, do you have an update through the chair?
Mr. Chairman, to the Councilwoman, I'm pleased to announce and a bit chastised that it took so long, but as of Friday, they turned it on.
Incredible news. Thank you. I'll be there for Big City Boo tomorrow, and I'm sure that George Jackson will be, and the residents will be very happy to hear it. Thank you. Why not? I'm gonna in advance of Big City Boo, I'm gonna get some laps in, in a nice warm pool.
Oh, man. Here we go. Oh, man. I'm seeing there are no more questions from the committee. I think we have adjourned Municipal Service and Properties Committee today. Thank you.
Thank you.